Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Kinesiology 234, and I took the time to go through the syllabus and kind of like retool it a little bit so it's a little more user friendly, and also updated it based on some stuff we talked about in class that we all thought would be of benefit over the next couple of weeks going into the NSCA certification. So when you go into the syllabus and schedule tab over to the left, it'll bring this up. Now, right now I have the syllabus loaded up that's updated. The original syllabus is right here. If you want to open them up side by side and kind of view these at your leisure, you can, but I'm just going to go over the one that I recently did. There will be a video that'll be posted here, much like we did before. So this video will be posted underneath the updated syllabus. So let me jump in here real quick and go over what I touched up. And wait for it. Here it is. When we scroll down, and we scroll on down to here, I took the grading categories section and I retooled it a little bit so it makes a little bit more sense. And also, we did talk about, we have the 10 check for learning assignments, and we did those primarily because I wanted you guys to stay engaged while we were going remote during the first couple of weeks. But also, there's some validity to having those check for learnings in there, and you're reinforcing some of the learning components that are happening during the lecture and the lab component. So we know we're doing 10 of those. And we're going to do 10 of those at 10 points apiece, which is going to give us 100. Then we talked about doing 10 check for learning assignments, and I'll take those right from the NSCA book and probably right from the practice exam and give you the opportunity to have some exposure to those as we go through the course. So I'll continue to do these here, but then I'll start to transition into these here, and we're going to have 10 of those for 100 points total. The 2 practice exams, I'll talk about that here in a second. And then I took the instructional portfolio section in here and I kind of blew it apart and I segmented it because further along in the category descriptions, it listed client profile, wellness talk, reflection paper, and training sessions, which was great, but I think it's of benefit to know point-wise what each of them are worth. So for example, the client profile, 25 points, the wellness talk, 25 points, reflection paper, easy to see, 50 points, and the training sessions, and we'll talk about that in a second, will be worth 100 points. So that full package for the portfolio is 200 points, subcategorized by 150, 25, 25. And then the clinical evaluation and feedback, there'll be 5 of those that I'll end up doing as an instructor, and it'll be 5 of them at 20 points apiece, and that'll be worth 100 points or 16, almost 17% of your grade. So if we scroll on down here, we look at the check for learning. We know the CFLs, as I stated, it'll stay the same. They'll be like 5 to 10 questions for 10 points apiece, and they'll be still in the early stages will be based upon the lectures in the lab. And then the second part that we had talked about was adding in questions from the Essentials of Personal Training workbook, the workbook that you should be working from and studying from anyways for the certification. So in essence, you're going to have 20 total CFL assignments that you're going to do through the duration of the semester for a total of 200 points. 100 from lecture and 100 from the actual book. When we get into the instructional portfolio, you have a better understanding and description of what goes into each one of those. So from the client profile, we're looking at the fitness assessment, the interview, client goals, readiness questionnaire, and the point values. And then I'll definitely update and provide examples of those on Blackboard for you so you can kind of follow along and have a better understanding of how you want to do that. You know, we've talked a lot about client profile and then the assessments and then the interviews, etc. And that's a very key component, right? And I want you to be able to understand that and be able to do that. And we're doing this on the front end because you have to do your profile first with your client. You're not going to do it in week number 10. And then as we go further along, you'll have your reflection paper and the training sessions as you go through, and I'll talk about this in a second. But with the fitness and wellness talk, what I'm looking for on this is, and I talked about branding and co-branding in a facility, you want to be able to create a video presentation that you can load up to either say like an Instagram, a YouTube, maybe a Twitter, and be able to, if you think of this in terms of now an omni-platform or being able to go across platforms, that's the terminology is omni-platform, kind of a mixed media campaign. So you'd like to have, much like, and even in my class where I have that Roy G. Biv, you might find that for your website, you have a particular shade of blue that you use for the background. And then you're going to use that particular shade of blue when you do your presentations. And then your presentations and you upload them to YouTube. And then you'll have the same kind of feel and vibe on Instagram as well as your, say, Twitter account or whatever platform is the next best platform that's out there. So when you look at this again, you try to create that brand and you try to have that brand transcend all those different platforms and be consistent. So it speaks to you and who you are as a professional. Excuse me. So look at that and kind of, we'll go through that a little bit more. And I want to spend more time on that. And I'm kind of keen on having you guys be able to have this presentation and begin the process of understanding how it's a representation of you. So, for example, I have an Instagram, a personal Instagram account, but I also have a Coach Fleischer Instagram account. Please feel free to hit me up. I'll accept anybody that comes into Coach Fleischer who's a student of mine. I also have a Twitter, Coach Fleischer, which I need to kind of make that a little bit more robust, if you will. But I have a personal Twitter. And then there's Facebook, and then of course there's YouTube. And then, if you go to YouTube, for example, and Google my name and kinesiology, Adrian Fleischer kinesiology, you'll see I have upwards, I think at this point, like 300 some odd videos. I think it's like somewhere in that range for my kinesiology courses and different exercises that I upload to an app I use for Team Builder and different things I've done for students and just describing different things that maybe in a lab or a lecture they didn't get. But my point to you is you try to have as robust content to have a presence, and people can then seek out your expertise. And you can, if you wish to, you can limit that, and you can make it where it's a password requirement, of course. But again, my point to you is you're trying to create a presence and be able to create a brand. And perhaps you take that into meta, right? You're in the whole metaverse and you have your own little fitness studio in Metaland. And the same thing, you want your brand and you want all these other omni-platform type of environments, whether it's a Twitter, Gram, um, LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever it may be, pointing to either you or your meta space if you're going to go that route. The reflection paper itself will be done later on in the semester, and that will be a paper kind of summarizing your experience with the client and what it was like to first meet with them, go through the process. And I would urge you to kind of like diary this, if you will, and keep notes on this so you don't end up in week number 12 or 13 just trying to remember everything that went on, because this will be a process. It will be a process from day one all the way to the end, both for the client and for you. And I want you to be able to write about that. The training sessions at this point, there's 20, I'm counting 25 for easy math. The first one's on me, but really when you look at it, if we do Tuesday, Thursday over the next 12 weeks, that's going to give us another 24 total sessions. In the initial stage, it's because you don't have a client yet and we're training each other. You'll have to come in, you'll have to have a plan of attack, you'll meet with your person, you'll take them through a workout, and you'll submit what that workout is in a timely manner. And it'll probably be 1 week minus a day. And frankly, if you're going to come in and work out with the person based on the context of our course right now, this should be done the night before you come in, not just like you're throwing a bunch of stuff together and you're writing about it afterwards. This should be something that's planned out prior to the workout. And there'll be a way to load that up on Blackboard. I'll make that very apparent for each session. And you'll have the ability to submit that on Blackboard and submit for 4 points each. And when it's all said and done, 4 points at 25 sessions. First one will be on me, like I said, will be a total of 100 points. With the practice exams, we have 2 of them. I mean, you can take more than that, but there's 2 that'll be graded. And really what I'm after is you taking the first exam, we sit down, we go over what you thought, what was your strongest point, where were you weak, what are some things you need to work on, how are we going to go ahead and work forward in terms of doing better. Now, this is not like you're going to sit down and tank the first exam so you can do better on the second one, because the second exam grade is going to be based upon the first one. And what I'm interested in is you being able to wrap yourself around how to study for the exam and best prepare for the exam. And with that stated, this will be a dialogue between you and I to be able to come up with a strategy. If we go into the evaluation and feedback, as I mentioned earlier, you'll have 5 of those where I'll observe the workout itself. And with that, you'll have 100 total points. So each one will be worth 20 points apiece. And I'm going to go ahead and back out of this and just go into one thing I want to touch on regarding um, our course. And what you'll see is when we go into the layout, excuse me, you have a lot of stuff that's front end loaded in here. And as we get further on in the semester, I want you to have that flexibility to be able to complete all of the work and be able to work with your clients most effectively. So, realize we're front end loading a bunch of information here. And as we go into the end of, frankly, what is the end of module 1 already, 4 weeks in, and we go into the beginning of module 2 in the next week, this is going to get moving pretty quick because you're going to have assignments, you're going to have that stuff that they have to take care of, and be able to do these assignments and be able to be best prepared for your client. And part of that will include, if we get into assignments, and these will be things that'll be layered in here to the different modules. But if we go into assignments, personal training, we scroll on down, you can see different examples of starting workouts. And also you can utilize a template. And this is a template I want you to use when you're prepping for your client. In it, you'll have, date, type things like sleep, how they're feeling, focus, diet. I tend to ask a couple main questions when people come in to work out with me. I'll go over those in a different presentation, but really it's to assess their functional ability or ability to perform at that moment. And what I'm looking for you to do is have a plan of attack of what you'd like to do with your client. Now, if you have 20 minutes in the initial stages where we're doing student A, student B, you might only get, say, 5 exercises, 4 exercises, whatever it may be, and plan out your sets and your reps, right? And then over here, utilize this to determine just what the heck actually happened, right? And kind of compare the two. And then this is where you can take notes and be able to write about, hey, my client could only do sets of 6, or my client was feeling fantastic today and they did sets of 15 with more weight than actually I had anticipated. And we were able to progress them. Or they were unable to do a BOSU squat because of an ankle issue, so we substituted this exercise for that. Those are the kind of things I'm looking for you to do a good job and get the full grade. But this will all be loaded up in Blackboard for you, and the ability to submit it will be in Blackboard, and that'll be found in the learning modules. All right, so we know in the learning modules you're going to have this right here. And in learning modules, we've already been 1 through 3, 4, 5. We're cranking through. We're getting down here into like session number 7 and 8, and then I'll load those in for you so you'll be able to have those and then submit those. All right, guys, that's a bunch, but I really thought that by retooling the uh, the syllabus, that was the way to do it so it's better and more easily understood. And then also, given what we had talked about best preparing you guys for the NSCA, that we had to account for that as well with the check for learnings. If you have any questions, if you have any issues, as always, grab me in class. It might be difficult when we're in lab or lecture because it goes so dang fast. Send me an email. We can go ahead and try to resolve something. We can go from there. All right, guys, I'm signing off. I got to do some more work here. Have a good one. Bye.